I won't be all alone to present how OP3FT conducts the development of the Frogans technology. When I speak about the development of the Frogans technology, I'm speaking from the standpoint of technicalities, a technical standpoint primarily, but other things in the Frogans project that are driven by the people who are part of OP3FT, working on it day in, day out. In addition to myself, I'll be giving a brief introduction to give an idea about the Frogans technology development and how we can succeed in comparing it with existing bodies. And then I will receive on stage members of the team carrying out the technical development of Frogans technology for them to give us their perspective about their work. Thanks to OP3FT, the development of the Frogans technology is ensured. And now let's speak about how it is ensured. OP3FT is not an abstract organization, it's all about people. They're here tonight, they have their badges, organizers with them. If you have any questions for them, they will certainly be delighted to answer you. And as Alexis and Julie showed very well, the development of the Frogans technology, it's technique, of course, to display the Frogans site on your screen, but it's also about legal action, promotion, and I bear witness to that, since I'm a part of the promotion team. And it's also about organization in the more general sense of the term. As regards technical development, the activities are different, as we shall see, but what's very good with OP3FT is that the actions of a team or project leader will lead to interactions with their colleagues working in another sector of developing Frogans technology. As Alexis explained earlier, Frogans technology has evolved significantly since the birth of the concept in the beginning of the 2000s. And the teams, these are the players making the Frogans technology something that can reinvent itself, taking into consideration all the new challenges. In the front row of these expectations, as Julie said, making available Frogans technology free of charge. And that was quickly a priority. And to call upon a non-profit making organization for its development, and this was the instrument to attain this objective. The success of the massive use of internet technology also went through that. The fact of calling upon non-profit making bodies and making it free for users who want to use it for pleasure or for their activities, for their business, and to add value to their products and services. The organizations making the internet, many of them are so-called standardization bodies. For example, the development and standardization of the fundamental protocols for data exchange. You may remember Alex's chart. It was the lane in the middle, the protocols and traffic on the internet. Thank you. Here we go. Everything taking place here. Internet protocols, all of that is handled to a large extent by IETF, which is the Internet Engineering Task Force, the IETF, composed of working groups, working on every day improving the internet. ECAN, as we said before, is in charge of DNS, and in addition, it is also ensures regulation of the registry. But Mr. Bachelet from ICANN later on will tell us much more than I can. The World Wide Web, as Alex has said, these are technical specifications. The famous 1,000 pages of HTML specification that Alex spoke about. Of course, you need task force to write on it, to develop it. And that too is a non-profit making body. At any rate, that puts technology, the web technology, at the service of all for free. It's the World Wide Web Consortium. As I said before, technology doesn't stop at standardization. We also have Frogans Player, which is a browser for Frogans site. It's free of charge, and you can imagine links, for example, with the Mozilla Foundation, which develops the browser software that you may use, which is Firefox. So the originality of OP3FT is this. It stands all alone in doing all three things. Why? Because the 4Gen project cannot operate without a coordination, meaning standardization, technical implementation, development, and the provision of software. Now, I could have spoken a bit about conditions of use, the legal standpoint, but I'll leave that up to Thomas. If they agree, and I hope that they do agree, I will ask the members of the technical development team at OP3FT to come and join me here on stage to speak to you about technical development. Thank you. So on the stage and by order of appearance, tonight, Damien Arnoux, in charge of the development division at OP3FT, behind him, well, in fact, it's not by order of appearance, but I won't ask them to shuffle around. We have Serge Damota, who's a part of the tool division, in charge of a wonderful project that he'll explain later on. I won't destroy the suspense. Beside him, Aurélien Props, in charge of coordinating development and the development division. Behind him, Benjamin Christer, who draws up the technical specifications. Beside him, Michel Lefranc is in charge of the development background, so to speak, meaning the environment for development is made available to all the developers and technicians at OP3FT. And beside him, Yang Wang, who is in charge, well, he'll be very important for you, the end users, because he is in charge of developing the graphical interfaces for the player that you'll use to browse on the Frogans website. Thank you for being here with me on stage. Damien, I turn to you first, because you are, let's say, like the chief of development. I would like you to tell me how the various tasks are organized in your division, please. Of course, Jean-Emmanuel. Hello, everyone. I'm Damien Arnoux, in charge of the development division at OP3FT. My job is primarily to supervise all technical aspects in terms of Frogans Technology. More concretely, the development division is there to implement various components as technical specifications and a reference library. The reference libraries that are implemented in language C, for those of you who know it, it's a universal language in the world of computer science for past, present, and future technologies. And that is very interesting for Frogans Technology. In terms of the development division, we also have another task, which is to implement Frogans Player. As Alexis explained earlier, this is the software for browsing on Frogans sites. If I had to go more into detail, but not too much, in terms of the components, above all, we have components linked to languages like description language, the FSDL that Alexis spoke of. The development division is in charge of implementing it, as well as specifications. We also have components at the level of addressing, But I won't talk about that too much, because we will be speaking about that tomorrow, more specifically. There are other components related to the network, electronic signature, everything linked to security. And lastly, a major component which stands at the heart, the brain of Frogans player, for you to be able to manipulate and use all these components together. And that's it. Thank you, Damien. Thank you so much. I was speaking earlier about the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, and standardization. OP3FT, all of us, above all, to develop Frogans technology, we need to write technical specifications document. Why do I speak about IETF? Because OP3FT has the same objectives of clarity in writing these documents, clarity and accessibility for the technical specification documents written in English to be made available to all free of charge in a format that can be read on any machine, so that developers and other technicians can use them for technology. Benjamin, you are in charge of drawing up the technical specifications. Despite the similarities that I mentioned with respect to drafting the technical specifications, could you tell us about differences with other standardization bodies, and above all at OP3FT, in what way is what's our method for developing technical specifications? Well, the main difference, let me tell you, between us at OP3FT is interactivity between the three entities developing specifications. In other words, the research team, a huge team. We have the drafting team with myself, Alexis, and Thomas. And thirdly, an implementation or development team led by Damien. The originality for us is the high interactivity between all three entities, starting with research, which will examine existing standards. We integrate on the Internet, which is a set which has been mature for years. We need to take into account existing standards and to use them as far as possible. We must study carefully to know it well. We must find the best algorithms so as to develop our own technology. That's the role of the research division. And then, when research has done its job, we start to write the specifications. Often, we write in English very precisely, writing down our needs. Sometimes you find research domains where we need to go further. So we interact with the research team. The third player then comes in, the development team, that must implement our specifications. They often have questions as to how they can do this or that. Have you thought of this? For example, and they refer you back to the specifications team or the research team. The aim of all these interactions between the various entities is to provide specifications that are clear, understandable, reliable, and open, so that any changes required can be implemented in a secure manner. Thank you, Benjamin. So very strong interaction between R&D implementation and the technical drafting of specifications. Damien, you were saying very briefly that all the reference implementations use C language for development. Now, this is a universal language, you said, for IT, and the advantage is that it can be used with past, present, and future terminals. But since the bylaws of OP3FT states this, and I believe that you'll all want to read the bylaws at the end of the conference after hearing so much about it, and I urge you to do so as a matter of fact, OP3FT must make an effort so that the technical specifications and especially the reference implementations are accessible for the largest number of developers. And therefore that means using other programming languages. Serge, you are in charge of solving that problem. Could you explain briefly how you view the fact of having to transform? I apologize for my language, for transforming, therefore, an implementation written in C into another programming language that would be more familiar. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your question, Jean-Emmanuel. For the basic libraries, they're written in C language. So naturally, they can be used only by programs written in C or by superset of C, languages derived from C, C++, Objective-C, for example. So that other developers who are accustomed to other languages can use our libraries. We make what we call wrappers. You went far from the truth when you said transformation, but you should have used the word translation. It's just a small software layer added on top of the Frogans library developed by the development team so that we can translate to another language, typically go from C to Java, using what we call Java Native Interface, go from C to PHP by writing a PHP module. And like that, we have a whole range of languages enabling integration of APIs written in C via different mechanisms. What we call wrappers means implementing these mechanisms so as to provide these languages with our APIs to enable writing our libraries. Thank you. I hope I've answered your question. Of course you have. I knew that ahead of time, I must admit. It's true that we did rehearse. He knew. So thank you, Serge, for that fine transition. Developers, thanks to your work, can quickly, depending on their favorite language, use Frogans Technology to create tools, software, all sorts of tools and services, and they can do that easily in languages with which they are familiar, and then they can release them, making them available to other developers free of charge or for a fee, depending on what they want to do. So we spoke about developers and how we'll make Frogans Technology available to them. But if you think about the end user, those who will be browsing on Frogans sites, we're entitled to wonder how OP3FT will be able to offer to all end users Frogans Player on their terminal. That will call for graphical user interfaces, and Frogans Player, as we said, is a software that can work on your smartphone, on your tablet, or even on your office computer. But for the largest possible number of people to be able to have access to a Frogans site, we'll have to be able to take into account all the different terminals we find on the market. And here, I put my question to Jan, who is head of the development of graphical user interfaces for Frogans Player. Can you tell us briefly how the same Frogans site in Frogans Player can appear in a uniform manner, the same way on all the terminals for which Frogans Player is developed? Yes. The man-machine interface part in Frogans Player, managing the interface between users and what we call the Frogans Player's runtime. If we consider that the server, well, in Frogans Player, well, the interface must be viewed like it's the eyes and arms. I'm sorry, Jan. Can you bring the microphone closer? I'm not sure that we can hear you properly. Is it better now? I don't know. I think so, though. Okay. It's so strange to hear my voice. Where are we? So it communicates to FRD, and then it returns to the new application, telling it what it should do, like display a window or display a picture. If you write in C, the user interface part is platform depending on the native language of each platform, to be able to deploy all the available means so that Frogans Player can be economical, efficient, and to better adapt to each user environment. Thank you, Young. I think I heard something fall. I hope no one hurt themselves. Thank you so much, Young. So if I summarize, the GUI, the graphical user interface, will be developed on the various terminals. And to adapt to the various terminals, the small constraints of each will be smoothed out to the maximum for a uniform development and rendering. But after all, that means a lot of terminals to be taken into consideration. Aurelia, you are in charge of coordinating the development of Frogans Player and its different releases. Can you tell us how OP3FT envisions the diversity of operating systems and the terminals so that Frogans Player can be proposed on the largest possible number of terminals? Hello, everyone. We talked about the general interest for OP3FT and our technical viewpoint. It's not a vain word that we're talking about a range of systems to which we must adapt Frogans Player. We decided today to opt for 6 first operating systems. It's just the beginning, a first list. There are 3 operating systems, desktops, that are Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And today we're also targeting 3 mobile platforms, Android, iOS, and Windows. So the whole range of Windows in terms of mobility was very interesting. And here we find once again the notion of in the common interest. We're not content only with releasing Frogans Player on the latest version of each platform. That's not what it's all about. We know that there are people who have old terminals, so we really intend, above and beyond being multi-platform, targeted for a certain number of operating systems, to also think of the maximum number of releases as far as possible with respect to these operating systems. So we systematically consider developing Frogans Player on all these platforms. Regularly, we ask ourselves how we can run Frogans Player on Windows 3.11 to be sure that at one point, well, we need to keep in mind the fact that we must be compatible at all times. Thank you, Aurelia. Very complex, therefore. But the challenge, you've been able to rise to it. It's thanks to you, Michelle, that you were able to rise to this challenge, because you are in charge of the development architecture that OP3FT has been set up. And the team has been able to work under, let's say, wonderful circumstances. You developed, and you're still developing, FPXDE. Can you tell us more? Because even though It's the background of the project. It's very interesting to understand how a cross-platform development can be carried out. Yes, thank you. FPXDE means French Player Cross-Platform Development Environment. That's what it means. The term development environment is very broad. It gives a cross-platform environment that's industrial, both productive and reassuring, helping to improve the quality of the code source generated. FPXDE includes a virtual machine standardized with all the necessary tools for developing a C cross-platform language and used every day by our C developers. That's the tip of the iceberg. For cross-platform, the objective is to give us C developers a total abstraction of the various targets we have. And for that, we set up an abstraction layer for each OS and operating system abstraction layer, enabling them to develop a C code that is common to all platforms. Similarly, we develop and maintain a chain for compiling and executing homogeneously on all platforms. Our command line for running programs, and they are the same regardless of the target. Above and beyond the software aspect, these compilation and run execution chains are based on a dedicated infrastructure that we have developed and that we have been deploying internally. FPXDE are also a set of quality-oriented tools, backing C developers, helping them in their everyday work. That's the reassuring part I spoke of earlier. We find a test framework, a continuous integration chain, code generators, and various code analyzers, static or statical, dynamic, all developed and customized to be the best fit to the quality demands that we all want to be high and sustainable. Thank you, Michel. So you gave him a big round of applause to Michel there. I don't know. Anyway, thank you. Or was it for everyone? It will be very technical anyway. And it will be a great pleasure for us to probe into all these points in great depth for those who are fans of technology or not. We will be covering all these aspects of technical development at the forthcoming conference. I know, but thank you so much for coming and for speaking in front of us, giving us an overview of how we carry out development at OP3FT. And there you go.